That's whatever it is. It's okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Haribol. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dadi. Fix it. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dadi. Jasodhanandana Vrajachana Ranjana. Jasodhanandana Vrajachana Ranjana. Jamunatira Vnachadi. Jamunatira Vnachadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi. Madhava Kunjabi Adi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi. Kunjabi Adi. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dadi. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dadi. Jasodhanandana Vrajachana Ranjana. Jasodhanandana Vrajachana Ranjana. Jamunatira Vnachadi. Jamunatira Vnachadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi. Kunjabi Adi. Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivijagacharya Astatara Satyasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Pimanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 22. Tatasya king Tataisha kain karyam alambritano Ilagapatyanga yad ugrasenam Tishtan nishanam parameshta Dishnya Nyabodhayad deva nidharayeti Tatasya kaikaryam alambritano Viglapayat yanga yad ugrasenam Tishtan nishanam parameshti dishnye Nyabodhayad deva nidharareti.
Tatasya kainkaryam alamrutano Vislapayati anga yat ugrasenam Ishtanishanam paramesti dishnye Odaye deva darayeti Tatasya kainkaranyalambritano Ishtanishanam paramesti dishnye
Ladies chant.
Shanam parameshti dishye
Yabodhayati
Tasya kainkaryamalam vritano Yapayatyanga yadugrasenam Nishanam parameshti dishnye
Tat. Therefore, tasya his kain karyam service alam of course Britan the servitors naha us vilabhayeti gives pain anga oh vidura yet as much as Ugrasenam unto King Ugrasena Tishtan being seated Nishanam waiting upon him Parameshti Dishnye on the royal throne Nyabodhayat, submitted. Deva, addressing my Lord. Nirharya, please know. Iti, thus. Therefore, O Vidura, does it not pain us, his servitors, when we remember that he, Lord Krishna, used to stand before King Ugrasena, who was sitting on the royal throne, and used to submit explanations before him, saying, "Oh, my Lord, please let it be known to you." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna's gentle behavior before his so-called superiors, such as his father, grandfather, and elder brother, his amiable behavior with his so-called wives, friends, and contemporaries, his behavior as a child before his mother Yashoda, and his naughty dealings with his young girlfriends cannot bewilder a pure devotee like Uddhava. Others who are not devotees are bewildered by such behavior of the Lord, who acted just like a human being. This bewilderment is explained by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 9:11 as follows. Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanamashutam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta mahesharam. Persons with a poor fund of knowledge belittle the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, not knowing his exalted position as the Lord of everything. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has explained his position clearly, but the demoniac atheist student squeezes out an interpretation to suit his own purpose and misleads unfortunate followers into the same mentality. Such unfortunate persons merely pick up some slogans from the great book of knowledge, but are unable to estimate the Lord as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pure devotees like Uddhava, however, are never misled by such atheistic opportunists. I had a little, Premananda's not here. A little exchange with her yesterday where that idea came from that Uddhava was Gyan Bhakta. But then when he went to Vrindavan, he became a Prema Bhakta. So that came from a book written by Gaur Govinda Maharaj, or it's like a transcription of lectures, I guess. And so our discussion went like this. Yes, Uddhava was the Diksha disciple of Brahaspati. And Brahaspati is the priest of the demigods. It doesn't say how it happened, but somehow Uddhava became his disciple. And Brahaspati was his guru. And that means the understandings that Uddhava had from his guru were on the Jnana platform, Jnana Bhakti platform. Because Brahaspati was not just a Jnani, he was a devotee, but a Jnana Bhakta. So the discussion went like this. Yes, that's what he received but from his guru, but he had so much association with Krishna. So much association with Krishna. Had he not come, would we be so bold as to say he had not come to Prema Bhakti stage because he was limited by what he heard from Brahaspati, which was Jnana Bhakti. So that was the background. So there's a certain point in this book. It's a transcription of lectures of Gaur Govinda Maharaj, exalted Vaishnav, wanting to express the special, triple special mood of love of the resident of Vrindavan, specifically their mood of separation, which Uddhava at this stage was unknown to him, but not to say, so he was making a point, how special is the love of Vrindavan. And Uddhava became not just charmed, but obsessive, wanting to achieve that same kind of love by the mercy of the residents of Vrindavan, specifically the gopis. To go from prema bhakti to braja bhakti is a big step. But I wouldn't say that he wasn't a prema bhakta before going to Vrindavan. That was the context of that point. Here's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 14, entitled Lord Krishna Explains the Yoga System. Chapter 14, text number 15, 11, 14, 15, where Krishna says to Uddhava, "My dear Uddhava, neither Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankarshan, the goddess of fortune, nor indeed my own self as dear to me as you are." Now, this isn't a comment about before he went to Vrindavan, but for sure, the experience of Uddhava in Vrindavan was transformational. But he's an exalted devotee, for sure. Not just like a Brahaspati disciple person. That's my comment on that discussion yesterday. Uddhava is being given a chance by his uncle, Akrura, to speak about Krishna. He's very happy to speak about Krishna. And recalling yesterday's verse, Uddhava, in yesterday's verse, the verse previous to this one, is describing the unlimitedness, the opulences, some of the opulences of the unlimited personality of Godhead. And this verse is now describing how it pains his heart. Doesn't it pain your heart, Kura? I mean, Uddhava, excuse me, Vidura, when you think of the following? He was all these things that described in the previous verse. In his manner of being an exemplary personality, he's standing before King Ugrasena. I mean, Ugrasena was put in jail. It is Krishna who freed him from jail. Krishna is more powerful than the one who he freed from jail. And yet, he's not standing on that position. I'm bigger than you. He's looking up to Ugrasena, who's seated on the royal throne, and submitting his messages to him very reverentially and respectfully, and with all due etiquette for an elder personality. "Oh, my Lord, please let it be known to you." Like he's, a secretary giving a report to is in charge, the person who he reports to. And that opens the door for, the topic of the relationships between Krishna and others. And one of them is he's taking the position of the subordinate, you say the servant, of one who's in the social position, at least, as the king. He was put in the position of being king by the person who's standing before him with folded palms. But he doesn't go there. He is perfect in his mannerisms. That's the word that's being used in the purport here. And also with all the other relationships, impeccable. So-called superiors like father, grandfather, and elder brother. Amiable behavior with his so-called wives, friends, and contemporaries. His behavior as a child before Mother Yashoda. His naughty dealings with the young girls. Uddhava's not bewildered by this. No, so besides he's not a materialist, he's understanding Krishna's divine nature. At the same time, he's understanding the intimacy of the love that Krishna displays towards those who are his devotees, and the relationship that they display towards Krishna, and he's one of them. Going back, probably you remember, when Uddhava was first asked by Vidura, how is everybody? And besides going into trance, the thing that the position that he takes is how painful it is. How painful it is. How painful it is. It's painful in ways that Krishna shows or speaks as if he's not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He comes before Devaki and Vasudeva saying, I'm sorry, but I was afraid of Kamsa. So I asked you to take me outside of Mathura. And as a result, from the time of my birth, we haven't seen each other. I'm so sorry. It pains me when Krishna acts like that. And then on and on and on. So it's on the one hand, and on the other hand. On the one hand, he's relishing the sweetness. And on the other hand, he's recognizing clearly the divinity. And he can see both because he's such an exalted personality. Now, different other persons, like say Shukadeva Goswami, he certainly knew of his divinity, and he knew of the sweetness, the Aishvarya and the Madhurya features of Krishna. And the Madhurya features of Krishna, this is Ugrasena, it's not only Vrindavan, there's sweetness in all the places, in Mathura and in Dwarka, as well as Vrindavan. There's sweetness there. That's Goloka and the pastime that Krishna performs. But the degree of sweetness so strong that it eclipses the sense of his majesty is Vrindavan. And so Krishna's pastimes mentioned here with Mother Jasoda, or Krishna's pastime with his cowherd boyfriends, and and others in Vrindavan. Krishna performed activities where he was behaving outside of his divinity, and he was enjoying that. He was enjoying their being astonished by the wonderful pastimes and the pranks, There's a book that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote that translates as pranks. And Krishna enjoys. And he enjoys those exchanges more. There's a nice verse in Lalita Madhava. Lalita Madhava is a book by Rupa Goswami. And Krishna has been taken, the break between Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava is Krishna leaves. So the description of Krishna's leaving is extreme. The description is extreme. And now Krishna's in Mathura. And Krishna, not only the gopis, but the focus goes on Krishna is experiencing pain in separation from the residents of Vrindavan. So Purnamasi comes with Madhu Mangal, and Purnamasi has a plan. The plan is on stage in Mathura, she's going to perform, have Krishna in the audience and Madhu Mangal sitting next to him in the audience, and perform pastimes of Braja on stage. There are Gandharva personalities who are the actors, and the script writer is Purnamasi, because she's the script writer of his drama, of his pastimes anyways. In the back, it doesn't say how many persons, but at least two other persons are there. Mukhara is there and Jatila are there. And they're two persons. Of course, their moods are different, but they're in opposition to Krishna meeting with Radha. They have different moods and different functions. But on the stage, there's an exchange where Radha and Krishna together, and Jatila comes and sees Radha and Krishna together on stage. She's in the audience, he's in the audience, and the actor's on stage where Jatila comes in and in an accusative tone says, "What's going on here?" And the actor on stage is identified as Madhava, and he speaks, Madhava on stage speaks, "Oh, fat lips," and says something, smart alecky to her. And Krishna turns to Madhu Mangal and smiles, said, he knows my mind. And he says to Madhu Mangal, "I derive greater happiness in these exchanges that I have with Jatila and Kutila, more than all the hymns of the Vedas, sung by exalted Brahmanas." These exchanges are exchanges that give Krishna pleasure. Even they seem to be in opposition. It gives Krishna great pleasure. And in the drama, Rupa Goswami is revealing that. So Krishna's doing something that gives him pleasure. Observing mildness and meekness and submission and what all the other things that he does, he derives pleasure. And even, as Prabhupada is writing here, his naughty dealings with young girls, he derives great pleasure. And there's no greater pleasure going into the Braja Leela, no greater pleasure. And Uddhava is not bewildered by these things. So materialists are bewildered, and they say many things that are offensive or whatever else they might say. It's just it's mundane, and they imitate and so forth and so on. There's so many. So what's painful to Uddhava is that the bottom line is his heart is pained because he knows of his supremacy, he knows of his divinity. It's not that he doesn't understand Krishna's enjoying. He understands that he's a realized person. Krishna's enjoying. But he's speaking from his perspective, and it's not a selfishness perspective. It's a rasa perspective. It's a rasa perspective because Krishna's at the center. And Krishna enjoys his relationship with Uddhava, as we heard, saying to Uddhava, "You're dearer to me than the goddess of fortune." And all of my associates, it's appears, the same statement appears in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, where in particular, the description is Lord Shiva is making the statement, but Lord Shiva is making the statement that even more dear to Krishna is Uddhava than even his associates in Vaikuntha, the goddess of fortune, Garuda. Uddhava is so dear. So there's a massive, an enormous amount of sweetness in his relationship. So this came up in the discussion that we had with the Chinese devotees. Some of you were there, where Draupadi is being appreciated, especially by Shukadeva Goswami, because of the sweetness of her relationship with Krishna, although even more so than the queens. Although she's not a queen, but there's a sweetness in their relationship. So Uddhava's not, he's not a lot of things, but he's not a Brijvasi. But to Krishna, he's very special. Meaning, he has these two. I'm just trying to look at the two sides of the pan scale. He understands the sweetness. He understands Krishna's happiness. At the same time, he has his own relationship with Krishna. His own relationship with Krishna is the relationship of majesty. And that's the position from which he serves, including giving Krishna advice or instructions. It's not just majesty. If the person has on veneration, they can't be an advisor. So it's unique. Like Ramananda Roy, speaking, knowing that Krishna is the puppeteer and he's just making him speak. But he goes on speaking. Uddhava knows that Krishna is giving him the intelligence and the capacity to say what he says. And he says it because their relationship is what it is. And he knows it, and he still speaks. Very special relationship. Very special relationship. So this section, it's something like a warm-up for 10th canto. It's giving the sequence of Krishna's pastimes. Many things, but then pastimes in Vrindavan, pastimes out of Vrindavan, right within the Bhagavatam. And so that is something that our acharyas also do again and again, directly through commentary and their own writings. They do the same thing in their own way, by the inspiration of personality of Godhead. Brihat Bhagavatamrita is a nice example. Gopal Champa is another nice example. These, very elevated literatures by our elevated acharyas, giving us an understanding of, Lita Madhava and Dagda Madhava, by our great acharyas explaining Krishna's pastimes in their own unique way according to their realization. We're so fortunate. Bhagavatam is so wonderful, and side by side we have deity worship and We have the holy name. We have so many resources that are of the highest caliber. Can't get any higher than these resources. And still we struggle. But we're on the right path. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yes?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for that conclusion, so hope-giving. Guru Maharaj, the bewilderment that Srila Prabhupada is talking in this purport, it's the bewilderment of materialists, right? Because the bewilderment like the materialists.
He's condemning the materialists, you're saying?
Yeah, the bewilderment talking about, I'm sorry,
What's the word?
bewilderment.
Bewilderment, okay.
I'm sorry.
You have a different way of saying bewilderment than I'm used to hearing. The bewilderment,
Of Uddhava,
yeah.
he is saying it's not the same as the materialists. But
That's what Prabhupada is saying, yes.
yeah, I'm just thinking because even Rajavasis, they're also in another sense bewildered.
But it's a nice kind. As is Uddhava's. It's a nice kind.
So in one sense, we see that he is not bewildered. He is not moving from his position of understanding that Krishna is the supreme. But at the same time, he is bewildered and feeling the pain. And
Because of his rasa. He likes to see. I was thinking, because we discussed it recently, Jagatananda. He likes to see, doesn't like to see. So he's fixed. And Mahaprabhu doesn't want to do what Jagadananda wants, but he has such love for him because he knows so it's. And the Supreme Lord enjoys that love of Jagadananda. Even Jagadananda again and again and again assists him to want to do something he doesn't want to do. How bold, how audacious. It's just relationships of love. And so, back to their question, the bewilderment of Uddhava and the bewilderment of the residents of Vrindavan are different, but they're both nice. It's not the bewilderment of the materialists. That's your point.
I have another question, Guru Maharaj, about this relationship. So we are seeing Jatila and Kutila. That was so sweet. So
Fat lips. He turns to Madhumangal and smiles.
So
Because that's what's said on the stage. And that's Madhava on the stage. And Krishna is in the audience saying, he understands my mind. Go ahead.
that was very sweet. So I'm just thinking in our example of, in the devotee circle, some devotees may have a different relationship, different mode, and others may have different. I used to get bewildered. Like, okay, why are they like this? They're supposed to be like this. This is how the devotion service should look like. And this is really helpful to see that it's perfectly okay according to their mood. They're just reciprocating and performing.
As long as it's pure. Pure means Krishna is the enjoyer. And then there's reciprocation between Krishna, the enjoyer, and the one that's serving in different moods of service just fine. It starts to become something else, using Prabhupada's example, when it's like sand in the sweet rice. And that's a whole other thing, how to deal with the sand in the sweet rice. Something else? 2.
The first question is, see, Krishna has born in jail, in the prison of Kamsa. So Devaki is the mother of Krishna, where Devaki has enjoyed the jail rasa, but where Yashodam is enjoying the Vatsalya rasa. Why this? How it happened?
I'm not sure. I didn't. You said a key word and everybody laughed and didn't catch the word.
Jail rasa versus Vatsalya rasa.
What's the word?
Jail.
Jail.
Whereas Yashoda enjoyed Vatsalya rasa. That's his point. Like, how did this happen? That one enjoyed Krishna in the jail, versus one enjoyed Krishna in more vibrant Vatsalya rasa. Correct?
Jail rasa. You could write a book on that question. Devaki, like other residents of Mathura, have a mix of Aishwarya and Madhurya. Because in Aishwarya, how can you be mother of the Supreme Person? So there's some Madhurya mix. Just like Krishna appeared specifically, forearms, full stature, not like a baby normally appears. So he's the divinity picture is there. At the same time, she has motherly affection. So it's jail rasa, but it's not just jail rasa. it's separation, because as mother, she's already had 6 children killed by Kamsa, and she doesn't want another child, what to speak of the Supreme Lord Narayan, killed. But she's a devotee, and so here's the key. She's covered by Yogamaya, because how can Narayan be killed? She's a devotee. How can Narayan be killed? He can't be killed, but she's concerned as a mother. So divinity and motherly affection. So it's inspired certainly by the circumstance of being in jail and being under the control of, apparently being under the control of Kamsa, because she's not under the control of Kamsa, she's under the control of the internal energy. So it's Yogamaya, not Mahamaya. And then Krishna's taken, because Vasudeva took him. Not like Kamsa took him or someone else, a demon or somebody came along and took him. Her husband took him for safety, because that's a parental affection mood. Protect from Kamsa, he's wild, very dangerous. So her motherly mood. So it's a motherly mood. But it's a different motherly mood, because there's the Aishwarya feature mixed with the motherly mood. It's a nice subject matter to contemplate. It's similar, it's dissimilar, but it's similar to Uddhava. He understands Krishna's divinity. But he has an intimacy that's, even more than Devaki, the mother. It pains him. Not just bewildered, it pains him. So that's Devaki. And so her motherliness is then unfulfilled. Who knows? We don't hear so much about, is she getting news from Vrindavan? What's going on? We don't hear. at least I'm unaware of any writing that says how Devaki is processing the messages that she's hearing. Now she's in jail, but somehow messages get through even when somebody's in jail. And she's about her son. So it's a love that's, she can't exhibit the fullness of it because of that separation. And then Krishna comes. Imagine how she feels when Krishna comes. And the motherly affection kicks in. My son's got to go to school. He just killed Kamsa. He killed so many demons and he's got to go to school. Motherly affection. And Yasoda, so it's a different, the intimacy is full on with Yasoda. And the dangers of demons and how she, so forth and so on. It's just varieties of love. And so let's go back and say it's not about them, it's about Krishna's enjoyment. And Krishna's enjoyment has variety. So go there. Think of this in terms of Krishna's enjoyment that has everything. And they're just playing a part, or they get the opportunity to be in that relationship that's fulfilling an aspect of Krishna's happiness. So prison rasa and vatsalya rasa, they're both vatsalya rasa, just different varieties for Krishna's pleasure. And for us to sit here and scratch our heads over what's going on, and to enter into those mysteries through primarily the Bhagavatam and the agencies of our great acharyas. Gives our acharyas something to do too. Someone else?
The second one.
You have a second? Oh yes, second one.
Question is, you said that Krishna has enjoyed the opposition, like whoever taken opposite, fought with Krishna or against him, he enjoyed that.
Yes.
But in our case, when someone is opposition of us, we become frustrated and we become so angry. Why is it? Can we not come back to the planet?
Supposing you were Krishna conscious, you wouldn't be frustrated.
I didn't get it.
Supposing you didn't have material consciousness, but it was pure consciousness, and someone says something unpleasant, or somebody makes an obstacle in the course of your service, then you're smiling. Just see how clever Krishna is, and etc. Again, it depends. There's all variety of responses, but largely we get frustrated because of our material contamination. We don't see Krishna's hand. Okay.
I think we should learn from him that we should be just be alert and be just enjoy that atmosphere.
So many lessons. Okay. Yes.
Gurumaharaj, a few questions, but whatever you have time for. One is from yesterday. When you began the class, you were expressing how, in order to understand this most confidential knowledge, one has to be free from envy and be faithful. So I can see...
That was yesterday evening.
Yes, Gurumaharaj.
Yeah.
I can see how gross manifestations of envy, there's some relief from those. But I'm wondering, for further refinement, what are some subtle manifestations of envy in our heart towards Krishna?
Well, here's two. One is you have a plan, you've consulted, it's a good plan, you're executing your plan, and there's something that's intervening, it's getting in the way of that plan. And rather than seeing, Krishna's hand, and that's something that's getting in the way, where one is meant to be something, either adjust the plan or become more determined or have full resolve or something. Do, like his question, feeling some other feelings. But, if we understand that we're meant to be instruments of Krishna's pleasure, and if we have a plan to serve Krishna's pleasure and there's some difficulty, then it's Krishna's arrangement and it's Krishna's kindness. But if we don't have that kind of transparency of being the instrument of Krishna's happiness, that's envy towards Krishna. Ultimately, it's envy towards Krishna, our whole material experience, our whole material existence is arising from that. We want to be separate enjoyers. We have a good plan. This is it's for pleasing Krishna, good plan, and it's not happening. So to be accepting of the ultimate control of Krishna in the course of our activities, there's the envy towards others. I'm just thinking of the Juhu story, and how did Prabhupada regard the opposition? And there are different times he spoke different things. But one of the sweetest conclusions is when the final thing was done, Mr. Nair was dead, and the deed was given by the city or whatever it was, the final thing. Prabhupada's in his room sipping milk, saying it was a good fight. So it's in recognizing they're persons who are really cruel and so forth and so on, and dealing with them, and so forth and so on, and so forth and so on. So so much. He dealt with them in a responsible way and spoke about it in a strong way. But ultimately, the battle was fighting a battle for Krishna. So there's no reservation in fighting the battle for Krishna because it was a battle for Krishna. So that's just, we have, so a subtle example of envy is not accepting Krishna's position in relation to the flow of events that are happening when we have, of course, Krishna's the intended recipient of my service, and some envy towards others. Let's say when there's an obstacle. The other category of envy, it's also obvious. Someone's doing nicely, and I'm feeling this feeling. I'm envious towards this person who's doing nicely, instead of thinking, oh wow, Krishna is very pleased, which is my purpose, or our devotional purpose. So that's an example. It's maybe less obvious than direct envy of Krishna, like Shishupal or somebody. Envy of others is envy of Krishna. Someone who's doing nice service and feeling envious. Go, second question.
Couple from today, Guru Maharaj. One is Uddhava Ramananda Roy in Chaitanya Leela.
I'm listening.
I'm wondering who Uddhava is in Chaitanya Leela.
Uddhava is in Chaitanya Leela. Gaura Gunadesh Tapika will know. I can't remember. As far as I can recall, keep looking, but as far as I can recall, there's two different personalities who some people say Uddhava is this and some people say Uddhava is that. But it goes the other direction, from the Gaura Leela to the Krishna Leela personalities. I forget. I mean, there's more than one. I can't hear you.
Parmanand Puri was
Google it again and see if there's some other persons who also said to be Uddhava. Keep going at it. Next.
Raj, the statement that you shared from the 11th canto where Krishna is saying, dearer to me than everybody else is, or dearer to me than the Vaikuntavasis and goddess of fortune is you, Uddhava. So I was thinking sometimes in material relationships, we can use this as a currency to negotiate intimacy where you're dearer to me than, you're dear. And we hear this, is this like one of those statements where more perfect, most perfect?
Well, it's yes. And in that list, it's not persons in Vrindavan, the list is persons outside Vrindavan. But it's one of those verses that says, of all the associates of Krishna outside of Vrindavan, Uddhava is the most exalted. This comes up in Brihad Bhagavatamrita also. So yeah, perfect, more perfect, most perfect. And what's the basis is rasa, or the intensity or strength of submission. And that's one of the superlativenesses of the gopis, is their submission knows no bounds. And it's not to say Mother Yasoda, it knows bounds, but there's no bounds. That's the superlative. Something else?
Just final comment, Guru Maharaj. I found it very funny how you were sharing that Devaki says, yeah, that's okay, he just killed Krishna, but he needs to go to school. So I thought, I can be more understanding with the whole discussion around homeschooling. This is the highest literature. No, he needs to go to school. So thank you for sharing.
Anyone else online something?
This question is from Amara Mataji. It's about the verse in 3rd canto, chapter 2, where Uddhava is mentioning how the members of Yadu dynasty are unfortunate as they could not identify Krishna as Supreme Lord. Although they were always in the company of the Lord, can you kindly help me understand how was this possible with the members of Yadu dynasty themselves?
The question is, how is it possible for the members of the Yadu dynasty to not understand Krishna's divinity? That's the question. How is it possible to understand or not understand anything? They have a service to do, and some may understand this and some may understand that. And that what they understand or don't understand is flowing from the Lord in the heart, and He reveals things and conceals things, depending upon the variegatedness of the relationship, and thus the fullness, the unlimitedness of His experience happiness. Some will understand, some will not understand, etc. The big picture is Krishna is unlimited, and the happiness of Krishna is unlimited, and that happiness is loving exchanges, and they're different persons with different moods of love, and that's part of His fullness. So in other words, some may have a greater, some may have a lesser, some may have full understanding of Krishna's divinity. Uddhava is one of them. That's one more?
Yeah, this is from Balram Prasad Prabhu. We have a nature of Kripana and very subtle, and we are part and parcel of Krishna. Just wondering if Krishna has that nature in any way.
Well, the answer is Krishna must have it, but must be in a transcendental perspective. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.